Yeah, everything is great. Thank you very much, Shab,
Yes,
um,
sir.
for hosting this. And I just want to start off and saying thank you to everyone who's attended. And I still feel so good from going back to when I joined during the COVID times and how much this brings us all together. I think that's a big deal for all of us, and we want to always keep that in our focus. I'm going to show some cards that I received from Don Price in a couple of different installments over the past few years. He reached out to me a few years back and asked what I collected, and I kind of just said, "Well, I'm into everything. I'm into interesting subject matter." And he said, "Well, I have exotic cards that I'm going to send your way." And so I started receiving packages of exotic cards or faraway places that he called faraway places or exotic cards, and these are cards from places all around the world. And I thought it was very interesting. He gave me a few different installments, and I have quite a few of these cards. I have many of these cards. Tonight, I'm showing you. This is considered part one because I do probably have enough. I don't want to show every card. I do want to show a few more than in this presentation. So I'll have a different presentation with these cards also in the future for part two, maybe even a part three. And so I just want to thank Don for his generosity over the years with these cards. I've had a lot of fun and I continue to research these cards, and they're very exciting to me. And I never would have thought that I would have had a collection of faraway place cards. So I want to thank Don again for his generosity. I like these cards for a few different reasons. The messages on the back side, the front side pictures. I like the different postal markings if they have them in the stamps, and the unique stories that are behind the cards. When I've done the research, they come up as very unique. And there's so much to learn from these cards as I research them. So I just want to start off with that. This very first card I'm showing, I'm entitling it just like on the card, Eskimo Happy Jack and his wife. It's a very old card. And it's published by O.D. Goats, Nome, Alaska. Happy Jack was very interesting person. Upon research, I learned he was a very skilled hunter from the Nome area of Alaska, and his nickname was chosen because everyone recognizes optimistic and happy spirit. Some did not even suspect that his halting gait was the result of walking around on stumps of legs with feet cut off. He was a skilled hunter who was trapped on drifting ice for almost a month during the winter at the turn of the century. He survived, but both of his feet were amputated at the ankles. He made a living as an ivory carver. And he was an extremely skilled ivory carver, one of the greatest ivory carvers this country and America has ever seen. His real name, because his nickname is Happy Jack, is Ango Kawaksa, and his wife is Asoanga. And you rarely see his wife's name. She's just referred to as his wife, but that's her name that's there. He earned a substantial income from his art, from his ivory carving of scrimshaw and walrus tusk carvings. And he also was very noted as helping his fellow artists in a sort of a school that he started, helping other artists do that type of carving. And loaning tools also was a big thing for him. He loaned tools and ideas to them, even selling pieces for them. He died in 1918 during the influenza pandemic. There's not much else about Happy Jack, but there is an exhibit that I located that's online as well as in person at the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. The Smithsonian in Washington Native American Museum. So the National Native American Museum in Washington, which I visited a couple of years ago, actually has some of his carvings. I didn't see one in person because I wasn't familiar with him at the time, but I looked online and right away one of his walrus tusk carvings appears. And so he's extremely talented craftsperson, and his art is exquisite and it's noted in world history and American history. They do believe when he was trapped on the drifting ice, he was trapped with a fellow hunter at that time. And the fellow hunter, his fellow hunter, passed away on that drifting ice. There is some speculation that maybe cannibalism also was something that occurred on that during that incident, but it's not known to be true or false, so it's just speculated upon, even at the time during the turn of the century. So it's a very interesting story. That's all I have about Happy Jack, and this card is very interesting. You can see that it's a solid back card or undivided card, very old. If you want to know more or look, you can go to the Smithsonian Native American Indian Museum and you could see about his artifacts. This next card is a very interesting card. So we went from Alaska, that first card, Nome, Alaska. This card is an American card, but it represents, I chose this card because it represents these Siberian women who came from Siberia. So it's not just about faraway places, this collection. Also, I should also note that it's also about faraway people, because some of the cards represent people from faraway places. And there was an exhibition, the Alaska Yukon Pacific Exposition in Seattle, Washington in 1909. The card is dated 1924, so that would be after the exhibition. But this took place on the grounds of the University of Washington. The exhibitions were designed to showcase exotic and faraway places and activities. And another exhibit highlight was a large collection of artwork, most notably by indigenous women, like you see in the picture from Siberia. It was held in 1909 and the postcard's labeled 1924. And it's made in America by Edward H. Mitchell at San Francisco. And it actually says that going down the back side of the left side. And that's all I have for this card. I like it because of the subject matter and the just the way it looks. I think it's interesting. Those women are wearing parkas, traditional Siberian parkas, and today remain popular even with younger people. So the parka jacket is still very alive. This is a Pan American World Airways postcard sponsored by Pan American World Airways, showing a typical Fijian village. And that's actually what's on the backside of the card, that states that it's a typical Fijian village. The British Crown colony of Fiji is visited regularly by the flying clippers of Pan American World Airways en route between California, Hawaii, Australia, New Zealand. New Zealand. And so I like this card for the reason being that when I was younger, this type of card didn't appeal to me being in black and white. I always thought that, oh, well, I wish that card or a card like this was in color. And now, as I've gotten older or more understanding and more aware of postcards, I appreciate these black and white cards tremendously, just like black and white movies, because they force you to kind of really imagine the color and the vividness rather than having it in your face. So I appreciate the black and white cards now more so than I did when I was first collecting or younger. And so this card does it for me because I could imagine the blue water and all the different colors that would be associated with it, even though it's in black and white. And so I like this card also because it's almost an advertisement type of card. I like the logo of the PAA and the airplane. I did do some research on this, and what's interesting is if you look at the source that I have here on the slide, exhibits.panama.digital, and write that down if you're interested, that is a great site that has all different types of research that was done on the systems of the flying clippers and their different routes and airplanes that they were using. And there's a lot of information if you're into airlines and airline travel and the flying clippers over the years. So I think that's pretty interesting what I came upon with some quick Google search. So there it is at the source. This is a typical Fijian village. Those homes, those thatched homes are their traditional type of homes, coastal type of homes that they had. And I like that. And you could even see on the bottom left corner a drying stand for some fish, whatnot. So it's a great card and it's just a nice one for the collection. This is another Fijian card entitled Beating the Lolly from Fiji. When I first had this card, without doing research, I thought they were doing something with making a boat or some type of canoe. But then that wasn't the case. It's a lolly drum, traditional Fijian lolly drum. And there's different sizes of them. And so I like this card because I like the look of this card, the color layout of this card, the palette that was used, and the way it was colored. And you could see the traditional Fijian home in the background, and the child there, and the two elders who are doing the drum. The back of the card has an interesting message. It reads, "Dear Sophie." It was quite interesting to watch these men make music on these things. Not bad either. Yesterday, we dropped anchor and cruised in the ship launches in and around about 12 of the small islands of Tonga. Also went into the cave of the swallow, where thousands of these birds live. It was a very narrow opening. I was glad when the launch made its way out. Again, these launches hold 60 people. The ship carries six of these, so it doesn't take long to get all the passengers ashore. Keep well, love, Mabel. And I do believe that Don would have more about this card if he was here in the meeting. I believe Mabel might have been a relative of Don's, Don Price, our fellow member. Just an interesting message describing the South Pacific travels of these ships and those different launches. I think those are interesting details that really are set a great picture. Now, interestingly, I did have a short video online of today, a video from today of a man, a musician, Fiji musician, and he was playing the lolly drum. And I wanted to show that video, but I couldn't get the sound to work on Zoom. So if you ever get a chance, you can type in lolly drum and you could hear what the lolly drum sounds like. It has a very nice sound to it. And it's a traditional Fijian drum. I like this card. I'm not sure if anyone at the end of the presentation wants to chime in, but I don't know what that type of style is where the perimeter of the card is cut in that type of pattern. As you can see, I really like those. I'm not sure what that's called, but I like that. This next card is entitled Gibraltar Rosea Bay. I like this card for many different reasons. I really enjoy the colors, it to look like a painting. In person, the card is very vivid. It looks alive, like a nice painting that was just done. It's very well done. I like the ships and I like the scene, and Gibraltar is an interesting place with an interesting history. This particular card is a Prudential life insurance card. So again, it was a type of an advertising card that would have been used. And people purchased these or received these and then sent them. And this particular card has a little bit of a history. I'll explain. The Rosea Bay, Gibraltar, holds great historical significance dating back to ancient times, this harbor and this area of Gibraltar. It served as a strategic naval base during the Roman and Moorish eras, and later played a crucial role during the Napoleonic Wars. The famous Battle of Trafalgar took place just off the coast of Rosea Bay. And so that does a lot for historians thinking about that place and what that place means. And the backside of this card, there's a little message there. It says, "Dear Tilly, I received your letter and was glad to hear you are well, with the exception that Fred and I have a cold. We're having such warm weather now, even warmer than in June. With love," and that's it. I can't read the rest of the card. It's kind of illegible. The cancellation on the card is an Oakland 1911 cancellation over this 1 cent Franklin stamp, a nice 1 cent Franklin stamp in great condition on the back side of the card. And the Prudential has the Strength of Gibraltar logo is in the center, kind of where the cancellation is. So I kind of like that too, that Prudential has the Gibraltar Rock as the logo on the backside. On the left, where the return address kind of would be on an envelope, it says life insurance policies issued to suit all incomes, amounts $15 to $100,000. So I think that's pretty cool. I did just purchase a $15 one, so we'll see how that goes. But yes, so it's a great card. I love this card. I like the cancellation, the stamp, canceled out of Oakland, 1911. It's really nice, everything that this card has to offer. This card is the Lighthouse, Gibraltar Europa Point. I wasn't familiar with Europa Point, and so this card offered a lot for me to research. It's a Raphael Tuck and Sons oilette card, so it does look like a little mini oil painting, work of art. I did do some research on the United States Lighthouse Society, lighthouses of the UK, and I found that Europa Point Lighthouse stands at the southernmost point of Gibraltar, situated at the gateway between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. It serves as a landfall and waypoint for vessels passing through the strait. Established in 1841, so a very old lighthouse. And this particular backside has two nice half-penny Gibraltar revenue stamps with a cancel that I believe is 1911 cancellation, but I'm still trying to figure that out. I do see a 25 there on the cancellation. I just think that that stamp comes, the research I've done comes from around that time of 1911 so far with the little research I've done. But I just really like this card. It has a great picture, especially in person. And Europa Lighthouse is still around. That area is still there presently. And so it has a great history. It has an amazing history, that lighthouse. And that has a lot to offer for people who are into lighthouses and that type of thing. So that's very interesting. I didn't get a chance to read this message fully there, so that message is the way it is until I look into it. I'm not sure what it's saying. We now go to Guinea, West Africa. I like this one. It's the village of Polagabi in West Africa. It's a French colony. At that time, it was a French colony. And this is a very interesting card. Again, I really can imagine what this card would look like in the real scene in color. It's a street scene, basically, of showing a house and a garden, a front yard, looks like, or maybe even a side yard or backyard. There's a French stamp, Guinea stamp on the front with a straight on cancellation. I like that. You can see the palm trees and you can see the people there, most likely the people who live right there. Interestingly, the stamp was initially canceled May 23rd, 1906, which I'm unable to read the place where it was initially canceled. Then canceled 2 days later at Luanga on May 25th. And Luanga refers to a region in West Central Africa, not far from this village. And the third cancellation appears to be in June at Savoy. It's kind of a not really a cancellation, but a receiving place. And that's the final destination in the Western Alps, the French province of Savoy and Savoy in the Western Alps. So this card traveled a lot. This card's seen a lot. It's very old, and it's just very interesting. Very interesting. I like the cancellations on this card and the stamp and the image. And then the history of that Guinea area is very interesting, very fluid history, and there's a lot going on in that area at that time. And so this card does a lot. It's a very interesting old card. We now go to Cartagena, Colombia. This is titled Principal Entrance to the City. And you can see the postcard on your left. The back side of the postcard is a little image, and then I found a current picture that's in color right there of what it looks like today. This is the gate and clock tower, and it can be seen at the main entrance of the walled city. In 1874, a clock was brought from the United States, and 63 years later, it was replaced by the current clock, which was imported from Switzerland. And that's some research I did from that source that's on the slide. The main entrance is famously known as Clock Tower. The construction of this gateway took place between 1601 and 1631. And Cartagena is located on the North Columbia coast against the Caribbean Sea. So it's a very interesting place. It's still going strong today. And I think that's very fabulous or very interesting that it's going all the way back with this type of look and this structure, this architecture to 1601. So I think that's it. I think the clock is an interesting history too. How that first clock was a United States clock. I do see that they've changed up the spire or the top piece and over the years, and but it has a good look today. Most likely, it looks like it's a great destination for tourism. Uh, so I do notice that when I go online, there's a lot of sites that advertise for this place. And as you can see, the backside of this postcard, it wasn't a used postcard, and it has a standard back size, what I would think at that time, type of older card. But yeah, it's a very interesting card. I love it. And I like the black and white image because I'm not sure of the color that it would have been, but maybe it was that yellow color or maybe it was some other color. But that's interesting for your imagination to think about. This next card is Plaza de Armas, Iquique, or the main square of Iquique, Chile. This is a main square that's still there today. It's the town square in Iquique, Chile. Chile, this part of Iquique or this area is in northern Chile. I was actually looking at it on a map today, and it's pretty far up north. And it's parallel. It's on the coastal area, kind of, and it's parallel inland would be the Atacama Desert. The clock tower is the same today, and the square has not changed. There are some high rises in the background now, so you can see the high rise in the background. It's there. If you know about South America or Central America, the town square is very important for those for different cities and to have a town square and a clock tower. And that's still all happening today. People are meeting there after work or on the weekends. And so it's alive and well today. And that city is going. And looks like a site to visit. Now, if you also notice in that postcard, there is to the left, there's this little gazebo, type of an open-sided gazebo with a little pointed roof. That is still there also today. I don't have a picture of that, but it is online and it looks just like it did then, but it's, just little, it's colorful. And so that's still there, that little gazebo area. So a lot's still there. I just like this card because it's just an interesting subject matter. And one day maybe to visit that would be a great thing to do. You could see that the back of the postcard is blank. And then it's done in Spanish. So, but it also looks like maybe French. So it's an interesting card, very old card. I really like this card. This seems to be an advertising card. Daybreak Papit Tahiti. Well, I'll start with the front side and just go off of what it says there. This superb skyline with Mount Orhana, well defined, is called a diadem. It's one of the world's show points. The word diadem comes from the Greek word diadema, which originally meant a cloth headband worn around the head to symbolize royalty. Some research I did in ancient times, diadems were worn by rulers and other high-ranking people. So I think that's interesting how that's on the front of the card. I really like the image. It looks like a little painting. It's very interesting and vivid. Now there's a letter on the back that's typed, as you can see, and what it says, it looks like it's travel cruise line advertising from that's out of San Francisco. So I'll read that. It says, "Can you beat it? Tahiti and back from San Francisco, first class trip on the Pacific, $260 to New Zealand and back, cheaper than staying at home. It's a summer in New Zealand now, which it has an October cancellation, and everything is at its best. The ship, the SS Mariposa, sails December 28th, February 2nd, March 9th, and every 36 days. Book now for this most delightful of all trips. Oceanic SS Company, 673 Market Street, San Francisco. The card was published by Sierra Color Type Company from the Sierra Building in San Francisco. There's an October 1909 San Francisco cancellation over a Franklin 1-cent stamp. And so I think that that's really cool. You could see going up the left side of the back of the postcard, they've stamped in a way Tahiti steamer sails from Frisco, August 6th, September 11th, October 17th, and November 22. I think these were sent out to people who were on their list as advertisements. This one went to Ukiah. So this is awesome for advertising history and Tahitian history and this postcard history and great stamp on there. There's this card offers a lot. San Francisco history and cruise ship history. So this card covers a lot of ground. And there's probably quite a few different cards like this. There's probably people I would believe that collect these type of cards and have an abundance of these type of sailing cards as advertisement. And I think this is one of the only ones I have, but this is an interesting card. I like how it's typed on the back also. Very interesting. This is Madagascar, Tenerife, Azoma. What that is the Straw Hat Merchants. These are the Straw Hat Merchants of Tenerife, or better known as what the locals say, Tana, which is the capital and the largest city of Madagascar, which was a French colony at that time. You could see this is a very old card, one of those ones that I believe could have been written on the front side. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't know what this was about. I did the research right away. I translate it because I don't know any other languages like that. So I translated it, and it's basically the hat merchants, the straw hat merchants. I did a close-up of the picture, as you can see in the center, and it really brought the card to life for me because the image is so great. As you can see, the depth of it, so much is going on at this bazaar, at this straw hat merchant stand. It's a glimpse of their story right there as merchants. I really appreciate this for the outfits they're wearing. I see those outfits as very modern, almost sci-fi type of outfits. It's like what a almost someone in Star Wars or a Jedi would wear. I see it as an extremely modern type of outfit. The hats are still being used and sold in Madagascar today, the straw hats. And I like on the right side of the stall, you could see those type of straw they hang. You know, there's a history of those. I forget the name of those, but those braidings have a hi interesting history in themselves, how they're keeping the straw. And this picture goes very deep. You could see that it's a bazaar with different stalls, and there's a lot going on there. And I'm sure that something similar is happening there today, probably just the same as it was then. It's a very interesting scene. And I did see online that you can still continue to purchase these straw hats if you were to visit Madagascar today. It's a very modern, for me, it's a very modern, futuristic image, what I see it as. I don't see it as black and white and old. I see it as kind of really new and interesting and even beyond in a lot of ways. The guy in the center at the focal point, he has a lot, there's a lot going on there. So I think that's interesting. And you can see the backside of the card. It was not used. And there's a marking on the front side in purple. I don't know what that's about, but it's there. And so a very great card. Very great card. And I didn't ever zoom in on it. And when I did, I was pretty fascinated by the image. There's a lot to see there. This card is interesting. I'm sure Don, if he was here, would have something to say about this card. This card is Telemark from Velen to Hovden. And so I'm going to start with the front side. Telemark's a county in Norway. And Velen is a lake located in Buskerud County. I did all this research and found this out. I didn't know about that, what that meant. In Norway, this area, this lake, is most popular for fishing brown trout and European perch. Hovden is a village in Norway. And so it's from Velen Lake to Hovden Village. That's what the title of the card is in the bottom left. So this village in Norway and this lake. The postcard was written by Mabel, who was on a previous postcard, and addressed to Mr. Robert Price, who I believe would have been Don's father. Card went to 38th Avenue in San Francisco. And I just have a little piece out of it to share. Quote, we spent 1.5 days in the land of eternal snow. I thought of the children and what a time they would have in such a place. And I believe that they would be referencing the person, maybe young Don at the time. When Don was young, he would have been considered one of the children or his siblings. So that would be something that Don might have been able to chime in on right now, you know. So, yeah, you could see that the stamp is missing on the back. The cancellation is not able to be seen, but you can see who it's laid out to, the message, and the front part is very vivid. I love the image, and this area of Telemark is very interesting. What an interesting history this place has. There's a lot there for this card. There's still further things I can research on this card about that area, and that county, that Buskerud County in Norway. Seems like a very interesting place. Today it's still alive. Today it's still going strong. And it looks like a place that you could visit right now. This next card is interesting. Darjeeling, the snows from Falut. There's a lot going on with this card. As you can see, there's a receiving cancellation on the front. It looks like it's not able to be read. You could see the title, the mountains. And then on the back, you could see that there's a message, 4 cancellations, or 5 on the back, 2 that are on the corners and 3 in the on the card. And then there's a stamp, upside down stamp. I'll explain a little more about this card here. So Darjeeling is a city in the northernmost region of the Indian state of West Bengal. Falut is a 11,800-foot mountain and the second highest peak of West Bengal in India. The message on the back of the card has a little state, says, we'll see what it says, seeing so many wonderful sights in this strange country. So I just kind of give you a little bit of the message. The mountains are so picturesque. So seeing so many wonderful sights in this strange country, the mountains are so picturesque. So I think that was an interesting 2 lines I took from the message that I thought in this strange country. There are 4 or 5 various cancellations, receiving markings on the back of the card. It has a nice India postage revenue stamp, a 1 Anna British colony stamp. Interestingly, the card is addressed to Miss Stafford at the Savoy Cafe, which the hotel at Henley Beach, you could see written right there. Adelaide, South Australia. The card was printed in Germany. So this card most likely arrived at that hotel at Henley Beach because I could see the receiving cancellation on the backside. I could see the part that says beach. So the card did actually make it to the hotel. Most likely it looks like it was supposed to be delivered to the Savoy Cafe where Miss Henley would have been. So that's very interesting. So no, not Miss Henley, Miss Stafford would have been at the Savoy Cafe. They could have hand delivered it to her at that cafe. I did go online, and the hotel in South Australia is as modern as can be, with a history that goes back to the turn of the last century. So you could see the old building at the time of when this card would have arrived there with the Savoy Cafe. But then today, the property is alive and it's so modern. The look of it, it's very interesting. Coastal hotel, beach hotel that looks so modern today. So it's a very interesting. If you get a chance to look up the hotel at Henley Beach in Adelaide, South Australia, you'll see that it's a very interesting hotel. I kind of want to go there tomorrow if I was able to. So this card does a lot because for me it spans different locations. It's not only Darjeeling, the mountain, the Falut Mountain, but it's also takes you to this South Australia area with this hotel. And I think that that's just an interesting thing that this card does so much and provides so much. I mean, and there's still more research that could be done with those cancellations, I believe. But I do see there's in the middle top, there's the Adelaide cancellation or receiving, and then there's the beach one. So the Henley Beach. So that's interesting. So you can kind of see those two. But yeah, it's a great card. It does a lot and a great image. Greetings from Pago Pago. This is an interesting card. The front side of the card shows the naval station at Tutuila, Pago Pago, Samoa. Pago Pago is the capital of American Samoa. 1 cent Washington stamp with Pago Pago. Samoa cancellation, September 24th, 1921. The message is just a simple message, a standard postcard message of person reaching the area or whatnot. But you can see Polk Street, San Francisco, Miss Stafford again. She comes up on a number of these cards that I received from Dawn. And so it's an interesting card. I did a lot of research onto this area, didn't know about this Pago Pago naval area, this naval station, extremely deep water channel there that the ships are able to navigate that area because of the deep water port there at the Tutuila Pago Pago station. And so there's a lot of history in World War One, World War Two. This comes up a lot, this place. If you do a search of this area and the naval history, the deep water port there, and then the surrounding area. So I like this card because it offers a lot and it is a world of research. I like the stamp on the card, the cancellation's clear, and I like how it's penciled on the back. That older look, the pencil script on the back handwriting's nice. So very cool. And again, as I've matured more, now that black and white image does it for me because I just forces my imagination to really see the color and bring out everything. So I really appreciate that black and white image. This is an interesting one. I'm also really into cinema, old movies, movie theater history. I've actually been an informal movie theater historian on the peninsula, going back to old movie houses at the turn of the century. So I go around the peninsula I have in the past and looked for old movie theater sites on the Bay Area, San Francisco Peninsula, where old theaters would have been, or they may still be. But this one comes up as the Rodina Cinema in Russia. This is a bit north of the Caspian Sea. So if you get out your map, you'll see this area in Russia, a bit north of the Caspian Sea. You can see where this cinema is. This cinema was built in 1953. It is two-hall cinema with 700 seats. The postcard is on the left, showing that old postcard. Historic cinema building in Lenina Street, the main street of Ufa, Bashkortostan, Russia. The building was completed and opened in 1953, and as of 2018 was still being used as a cinema. In 2024, a project for the renovation of the cinema building was developed and approved. So you can see that colored picture on the right of what it looks like today, the facade, how it's been changed. And today they still continue to hold movies as well as art shows. And it looks like it might even be a bit of a cultural center as well. But a very interesting history, cinema history, Russian history. Look at the back, it's very alive. The back of this postcard is alive more than ever. There's a message there that I have not been able to read, but it's to one of the Price family members. I can't see what the first name is, but Don will be able to. But it looks like Diodorf, maybe, and it goes to Palo Alto, California. And so that's very interesting. There's a lot going on with different stampings. You can see on the back right of the postcard, there's a Russian stamp. It might be a type of an airmail stamp like you see above it. The Avion stamp, type of airmail type of stamp. You can see penned at the very center top of the back. Airmail is in script. You could see the postage as well.
I can't.
Um,
That's to my mom. The
that's to your mom. Yes.
card is to my mom. Yeah, from a
Yes.
person named Herr Herr Paul Schmidt. Herr Paul,
Yes.
Paul Smith, yes.
Paul Schmidt, a friend of yours,
A Berliner, a colleague, work colleague of my wife.
a work colleague.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's cool. Yeah, so I really appreciate this, doing all the research there and seeing that cinema's history, and I haven't had a chance to research the message, but I really like everything this card has, and it offers so much, and you could see the picture today of what it looks like. And so yeah, that's cool. I didn't know you folks were joined on. So thank you for that information. And so it's cool.
Time, if you send it back or a picture of it, I can translate it for you.
Yeah, I'll have to do that, Don. I'll send you an email of the backside of it. This is my last card for the evening. It's El Nuevo Circo in Caracas, Venezuela. It's a bull ring, bullfighting ring. Very interesting area, place in history. And this bullfighting ring was inaugurated in 1919. It was considered the new bull ring, and with the capacity of up to 12,000 people or spectators. But the building has interesting a neo-Moorish style for that time. I did some research, and they thought that that was a technique of concrete, the way they laid out the concrete on that building, that was very experimental for the time. And then in 2005, the Metropolitan Institute of Cultural Heritage of Caracas, they recovered and restored the facade of that bull riding uh, building and painted it to its original color. With a view of the building being very artistic in the look, it's no longer a bullfighting ring. It's used as a cultural center, and there's a lot going on there for different cultural pieces and art and theater there. So today, and you can see that I found online what was interesting. I found this Louis Armstrong poster that was probably maybe a 12 by 16 size poster of Louis Armstrong when he performed there a long time ago. And you could that advertises the name of the Nuevo Circo and the dates and a picture of him. And I thought that was great. I just made it really small, but it's a full-size poster. It's in a paper museum. So I thought that that's cool. And I just really appreciate this card because it brings back a lot of interesting history, colorful history, South American, Central American history of bullfighting. The card is very old, as you could see. It has that fabric type of look almost, that textured look, and the color is very vivid on the card, and it does match up pretty well with the look of it today. And the place is still there. It could be visited, and the history's alive there. That ends my presentation.
Well, that was fantastic. Uh, I didn't want to interrupt you, Joe, but yes, our friend Don joined in a little bit late, but he was here for a while, and I was glad to see him on with us because I know that he basically uh, was involved in all of these cards. So anyway,
Yes.
I invite all of you. There's not too much that was done in the chat area, but I invite all of you to please unmute yourselves with any questions that you might have for Joe. I'm sure he'd be happy to hear that. So please ask your questions.
I
Yeah,
saw that.
Joe,
Yes. Yes.
Joe, there was the lighthouse in
Yes.
Gibraltar.
Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at the stamp. It has Edward the Seventh.
Yes.
Okay, the Edward the Seventh. He died in 1910. So you said probably 1911 date, but
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it wouldn't be much. It couldn't
It
be any
looks,
later than that. It might have
yeah.
been a leftover stamp. But
Thank you, Tom. It
yeah.
keeps popping up in the research of that stamp around 19, actually very specific of 1911. So I thought that,
Uh-huh.
for the short amount of research I did, I thought, oh, maybe I figured that out. But thank you very much. That's great.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. And I did see that Kyle Jolliffe, you put in the chat, the Kurt Tyke Fiji music card has deckled edges. So that's what that's called, deckled
Yeah,
edge.
so that you find those with a lot of premium cards that Kurt Tyke did, like for a major hotel might have deckled edges, and
Mhm.
so it's not uncommon.
Yeah. Thank you. I never knew the formal name of that. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll remember that. Thank you. Deckled.
I
Never
had
heard that before.
I had one question that I was going to ask you, and I don't know whether I'm right or wrong on this, but I think it was the second or third card in you were showing it was a card I think by Edward Mitchell, and it was marked 1924, and you were commenting that the scene was in 1909. I was wondering whether that 1924 was just the number that was assigned to that particular card.
I think you might be right. Maybe, unless anyone else has that, because I did see online that that expedition was 1909.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anyone knows, they may chime in on that.
Joe, this is Lynn.
Yes.
I really loved your enthusiasm about the
Thank
car.
you. Thank you.
I just really, really enjoyed that. And I
Thank
was
you.
wondering on this card that's still up there, when you said something about the concrete, if Clarissa
Yeah.
comment on that or something.
Oh, that's right. That's
She's
right.
an expert on that area.
Clarissa, so what it says, the quote was what I used, it neo-Morse style, which is a technique of concrete still experimental for the time. That's what it was, they said.
I'm not familiar with that terminology.
Yeah,
Some research.
it's an interesting piece that came up in the research. But yeah, so not sure. That was a good connection. I do remember that concrete presentation was very well.
Joe, I know
Yes,
I have Mitchell number 1924 is from the Alaska Yukon.
that's the card, Don. That's the
Okay.
one.
The Siberian woman.
That's the one.
Okay, that's right. That's the Mitchell number.
Yeah, so I don't know when you joined in, Dawn, but that was the Siberian women. There's two women there. That was my
We only finally were able to get in for the last three pictures.
From 14 onward, we saw.
But
Oh, okay.
so I'll
So
go back in later when
Yeah, we
it's
can see.
available
yes,
online.
I started it off by saying thank you, Dawn, that I received this collection of faraway exotic places from you.
I'm so glad that you got them and make use of
Yeah, you know, and this I consider part one of the presentation because I'm not showing them all, but I want to show, really nice ones. So this is part one, and then the next couple months I'll give a part two, and I'll
If I
highlight
knew-
another 20.
If I'd known I would live so long, I would have probably kept them longer.
Yeah, so I want to just thank you, Don, for being so generous, and the cards are just a great wealth of information and enjoyment, and so I hope you get to see the video of the first part of it, and there's a lot there.
I'm just delighted that you have them.
Thank you.
For recording it too.
Oh yes,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah, the recording will be sent you as soon as possible, Don. You'll see all of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Don, Joe has promised that this is just part one, and he's going
yeah.
to.
Oh, good.
I should have a part two and part three. So
all my life, I was looking for these cards from miscellaneous distant places. I
Yeah.
made a point of trying to get as many countries as I could find. And anytime I saw these exotic cards, I would buy them, get them right away. So I'm so happy that you got them, Joe.
Thank you. And I'm really appreciative of that. And I really enjoy everything that each of the cards has, whether it's the cancellations or the stamps or the messages or the pictures, the history. Each card has so much, and even with advertising history and just so much subject matter there and research, that a lot of these cards and places are alive more than ever. Like the card of beating the lolly drum, that's still happening. They're still doing that in Fiji. And things like that, in that lighthouse at Gibraltar Bay. um, Europa Point, that's still able to be visited, and it comes up in the lighthouse register. So there's so much that's still alive around the world with these cards that it seems like they're
Great.
more relevant than ever.
Great.
Yeah, the cards also reflect an expansion of global travel with cruises, happening um, starting in the early 20th century. People went from Seattle up to Alaska on expeditions, collected native artifacts, sometimes arguably illegally. I have another Edward Mitchell card of a totem pole carver. It's quite
Wow,
beautiful.
that's a great
Similar to
card.
your, I think it was Happy Jack card.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. The Happy Jack, Don, I started with the Happy Jack, the gentleman who was the ivory carver. And his history alone can be a whole world of a presentation. And I really like people to go on the Smithsonian Native American Indian Museum web site and look at his artifacts. His scrimshaw or his walrus tusks are some of the best ever produced by humans. And they're almost look like they were lasered. And just he was just a really true nice person and great person and exemplary American. So very interesting person.
I was wondering, Joe, that one scene that you showed with the lighthouse at Gibraltar, there was a structure kind of back
Yeah.
away from where the lighthouse was. Do you have any idea what that was?
No, but it's still there.
Okay.
So it can be further researched. Yeah, it still looks like that there,
Okay.
just a little more modern. But might be the lighthouse, the house, but it's detached. I'm not sure too much on lighthouse history if they were detached or always attached the house portion. But yeah, it's still there looking like that.
Joe, do you make a note on the cards of where you get these cards from? Do you have a record of all your
Of
provenance?
Well, I've received all these exotic place cards are from you.
All of them.
Yeah, yeah, no, they're all from you. You've given me over the last few years, if you recall, you've given me about four different manila packages, probably with about 30 cards in each. So I probably have 150 of these cards. Um, and
Okay,
so
well, I suggest that the other older people in the club might want to move their exotic cards in the same direction.
yeah, it's a wealth of research and information. So I'm so glad that I have this first amount kind of covered now. I feel good about that, that I'm honoring the cards in that way. And so I plan on doing them all like this, and then I'll keep doing the presentation. So I feel that that's really great. Now, there was a card that you may have missed on, that was the telemark card. And I believe your family may have a history. I'm going to show this really quick. If I have the club's attention for 2 more minutes, and Don, he may be able to uh, to chime in on this one here, this particular card. Uh, do you recall this card, Don?
That's your dad.
Well, that's to my father, yes.
Yeah, so
Mother,
this looks
that's
like
Oh, that's your aunt,
Yeah.
Aunt Mabel.
oh, that's my great aunt.
Mabel comes up a couple of times in different notations and different messages. and
She
cards.
was quite a grande dame. And in the
Mhm.
summer of 1939, of all time, she went traveling to Austria and Germany and Scandinavia with a Jewish companion in the summer of 1939. So
Wow,
they had no bad experiences, apparently.
wow.
What a summer to go there. And I think they got one of the last ships out of France to get back to America.
Wow. Yeah, so this is Telemark is a county in Norway, and this
Yeah.
is showing Velen, which is a lake, and then it's titled From the Lake to Hovden, which is a village in Norway. And so I suspected they traveled through that area. Um, it was written, I'm just really quick that I could share this with you. Just a little piece of a quote from it says, "We spent 1.5 days in the land of eternal snow. I thought of the children and what a time they would have in such a place. And I was thinking that that might be a reference to you when you were little, your siblings.
Yeah. And I would say that her daughter married Edward Turkington, who was a police commissioner or something in San Francisco in the 30s or so. Turkington, if anybody remembers
Is that the guy that was in the book? No, he was wasn't he in the Olympics?
And he was in the Olympics of 1920 and 24 in the rugby team also.
Yeah, so very interesting. And Mabel comes up of different cards,
Yeah, she
messages,
was a
and
great traveler, yes.
yeah, so she's on a quite a number of cards, her
I just think the
messages.
summer of 1939 was a pretty bad time to go traveling around in Europe.
But she did it. Yeah, that's
She did.
amazing. Yeah, so I'm just really thankful for this and the opportunity of the club to present these. And so I will show a part two coming up. I'll let the club know when that happens.
Well, you did a fantastic job,
you.
Joe, and
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for doing it.
Thank you.
Certainly
you.
want to thank Don for sending those
Yes.
cards to you because that
Yes.
is going on
Yeah.
it, so that's great. But
Yes, I'm happy I'm able to do this, and I do want to keep going with it. So thank you, Don.
Well, as a teacher too, you can pass on
Well,
information to your
this
students.
same slideshow, if I have a minute with you, this same slideshow I plan on presenting next Monday to all my classes.
That's wonderful.
So I'll present it to all my classes. And just as a note to the club, I had a box of 200 random postcards, and I ended up giving every kid 5 postcards. And I would say that all 160 of my kids, maybe without the exception of 5 who just aren't interested, they're all into postcards. They want postcards all the time. And this, we're talking 150 kids. So, there's something to say about that. Postcards are alive more than ever. Kids are interested in them. And so I got them all sparked this year, which I've never done that before. I didn't think that they would be so interested in postcards, but they are. They're also equally interested in stamps. So I'm giving those away. And now I plan, since they know about postcards, to give this full presentation next week to all 6 periods. So they're very excited. They'll enjoy it as much as you did.
I
Joe?
think that's great. Go ahead, Clarissa.
Joe,
Yes.
just occurred to me, we just had the DMZC for Maryland,
Oh,
the
yes. Yes.
zip code.
Yes.
I don't think I have your address, but I can mail you at least one postcard and show the students where
Yeah.
you can have,
I'm gonna put it in the Zoom.
Okay.
What
Other fun stuff with postcard and stamps.
Yes. So I'll put it in the Zoom right now.
Okay.
Joe,
Yes.
what is there any particular era of postcard or type of postcard that they seem to be more interested in? Older,
Anything.
younger?
I mean, just anything.
Fine.
I'm not putting you off, but I mean anything.
Okay.
I had this a great many postcards, 200 in a box that was given to me, and they were random United States from the 1960s and 70s travel postcards of Yosemite or all the different deserts and things, and they're just
Mhm.
taking everything. They're just into it all. They're reading the back, they're examining them, they're looking up the places. So
Okay.
I don't see them turning down anything, to tell you the
Okay.
truth. They
Hey,
just
Joe, hey, Joe,
yes.
you
Yes.
should send Clarissa the school address because your other address won't work.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for that, Patrick. I'm currently about to move apartments. So thank you, Patrick. Clarissa, the address I just gave you. I will be here for another 2 weeks. Do you think you'll be doing it by 2 weeks?
Well, I
Clarissa?
can do it, but maybe give me an
Yeah.
address that's just in case the mail post office
Yeah.
is slower than expected. You never know.
Yeah.
'Cause I can mail them tomorrow, but then, I
Oh,
don't.
yeah,
put-
yeah.
Well, and that way, if you show it to the students, it's not your address anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I will
Clarissa-
put them in an envelope at this point because they have been
yeah.
stamped on a different day. So
Yeah.
But still, yeah, give me the other another address that's.
The other thing I might mention to you, Joe, is, we have our own collection of club cards that we sell occasionally.
Yes.
And we've got an overabundance of them. So
Yes.
I'll get together with Dave Holbrook, who's our librarian, and we'll pick out an array of cards, and I'll bring them up to you.
Oh, thank you.
For your kids. I think that's great. I mean,
Thank you.
We're so fortunate. I mentioned this before. We were so fortunate back in the day,
Yes.
I guess about 6 years ago, when Carl joined our club, and he's been interested in postcards right from the get-go, and
Yes.
to have a young person interested in what we're doing is just
Yeah.
fantastic. So anything that
yeah.
we can do
Thank you.
to help, we will.
Thank you. I'm at that point in my practice now. I'm almost 15 years in, and so now I'm doing things that I think are really relevant, where I wasn't there then, in the past. So now I am, and so I'm introducing these things to kids regularly, and they're really going for it. So I have to really commend the youth. They're really into it.
Great.
They are. So yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Joe, this is off the subject, but
Yes.
I know you go to Disneyland every
Yes.
year. Do you have a Disneyland collection?
Very small collection, Nancy. It's good to see you, Nancy. But very small. I think we've spoke about this before. Um, I'm always amazed at Disneyland because of the fact that I think I was telling you this before. In the 1980s, when I was a kid, I was born in 76. So in the 80s, I remember in 86, 87, 88, being in Disneyland those years every summer and seeing the postcards that they had out at those times. I was purchasing them, or my parents were. We were sending them, right? So, but I didn't save any of them. And so those 1980s ones really do it for me because of when I was young, think about that. But I don't have any yet, I haven't got into that area yet.
The 1980s ones, then they were more like Continentals and different odd sizes, correct?
Yes, they they really were flashy, colorful, a little larger. But I remember seeing those on the racks in the late 80s, and they were really a big draw in Disneyland. And I believe at that time people were mailing out from Disneyland with the Disneyland
Oh, yeah. They
cancellations.
had a post office
So,
in Disneyland. You could get a
yes,
stamp marked post
I remember my
Disneyland.
parents doing that.
Yeah.
And see, that's terrible now. You can't do that, but that Disneyland cancellation is great too, to have used ones with that. So,
I don't think I've seen one with it, but
yeah,
no,
yeah.
I even mailed them from them, but you wouldn't, then they'd send them to another post
Yes.
office.
Yeah.
Anaheim.
So
Yeah.
yeah, eventually I would want to have, and I know you have a large collection of amusement parks and
I have a
parks.
million dupes.
Yeah, yeah. So,
All
that's
sizes.
that's something that
We should
eventually.
talk.
Yes, and it's great seeing you, Nancy. It's great seeing you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.